You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get to our last discussion of the day. Now, with cases of domestic violence taking on upward swing, persons have begun to voice out on hidden happenings in their homes. While some victims may have lost a chance to speak out and seek help due to early death, others are advocating for an end to the menace as they share their stories. I believe everyone has something to relate with one way or the other from what you have heard or what you have seen, or what you have witnessed, or even those who are victims themselves. But joining me in the studio is counselor and cognitive behavior therapist, Wemimo Adebi. It's nice to have you join me this morning.
Nice to be here
Welcome.
again. Yeah.
Great. And I also have a lawyer and social development advocate, Olatunbosun Oshifora, or Lutunbosun Oshifora. Bosun, good morning.
Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure.
Right. Now, let me start from that point where there's a priest standing in front of two persons and saying that today I join you as man and wife for better, for worse, until death do us part, and stuff like that. All of that's narrative. And then we submit ourselves, taking that vow, and then we get to a level where this man becomes a monster. Or the lady, depending on whatever.
Yeah.
Either of the spouse becomes a monster. And then you're reflecting, but I said for better, for worse. This is one of the worst, whatever the thing is. But talk to us. I'd like to start with you for obvious reasons. How a lot of people have argued, how biblical is this issue of for better, for worse, that they've always quoted, and we submit ourselves to that thing, for better, for worse, and then there's violence and people can't leave.
Okay, thank you very much. I like to say, from the little knowledge I have from the Bible, I don't think it's written in the scripture that it should be for better, for worse. I think it came up as a result of, institutions, come up with their own biblical
interpretations or deductions.
Interpretations. And with people, you give them one, they interpret it in 10 folds. So basically, that's all I have to say about the for better, for worse thing.
All right. Now, but so the point there is, we know that in the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 19, there's somewhere that the Bible talks about the issue of the only reason you can divorce your spouse is on the ground of infidelity or extramarital adultery, whatever the thing is. And then there is also the portion of the Bible that says that God hates divorce. These were just the black and white strands in the Bible. But the context of for better and for worse, I wonder where we got that from.
Okay, I think, like she said, it was something that was concocted. I've been a Christian all my life, and I think I have a bit of a knowledge of the Bible, and I've gone through the Bible severally, and I have not seen any portion where it was written for better, for worse. Then also, you cannot take the New Testament in isolation of the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, there was actually a bill of divorcement issued. God specifically told Moses to give them. In fact, it was a conversation that led to it, where Jesus told the people that in the beginning it wasn't so. They said, but Moses gave us the bill of
you can give a certificate of
you can always do that, where you write, I, the son of this, that. If I saw it, I had to get it out and send it to my friends, and somebody was like, you and this divorce thing, So, but it was actually there. But Christ was trying to tell them that, say, marriage is, you guys are supposed to stay together. But the fact is, he gave an exception also. So it's not a do or die thing. It's not really for better, for worse. It's not like for better, but the worst part of it, where your life will be lost in the process, God didn't command that too. So we have to put these things in context. There was nowhere where it was written in the Bible that stay and die in the process. What happens is that people look at the society. In fact, there's a culture, I call it ethno-religious dimension to this thing, because you find that people don't want to be, as if you leave your marriage, for example, if we situate this like Osinachi, Nwachukwu situation, she's a gospel artist. If she gets out of the marriage, and no church is going to call her. They'll call her a single mother. The societal factor is there. So she's not just a victim of domestic violence. She's a victim of a society with what values. Because there's a way, even these days, I'm a lawyer, I practice, clients call me and they tell me that, clients that I've separated, they will tell me that, Bosu, the landlord of my new house is asking for my husband. What do we do? Do we call him? They want a person where a man must feel, even though they are the ones paying for the rent. Now, so our society needs to really sit down and look at some things and put our values straight.
Also just mentioned something, because we're trying to create a mind picture. Because if for Osinachi, the kind of person she was, as a music minister and all of that, if she had left her home, because I'm just thinking of it the way you said it, if she had divorced and left, and it will be that, oh, you are supposed to be a guiding light, you're supposed to be an example unto others when it comes to marriage and all of that. But now a lot of persons have blamed her for not speaking out when there were cases of violence and all of that. We're hearing of a lot of things that the husband has done. Well, some of them, we're still hearing them. We can't verify all of them as it is, but we're hearing all of those from either those who would claim to have been family members and all of that. Now, talk to us from the perspective of people who, you've engaged a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now, when is it good to say, you know what, let's sit down and discuss this thing? If this thing happens again,
okay,
we will not continue like this.
All right.
At what point is it good to have that kind of conversation?
Okay, we need to understand that domestic abuse is a pattern of behavior. It's not a one-off. Okay, and then we have situations where people, could snap, okay, or maybe under a provocation, an influence, or whatever. But if you have been able to categorically say that this thing is a pattern of behavior, I don't think it's time for you to negotiate. It's your life, okay? And a lot of people have come up with a particular, how do I put it, life for themselves, and they put the life forward as against their own life. So there is no life you may have created for yourself that should be more important than your life. So in the situation of Osinachi, because I usually don't like to mention her name, but since we have a platform to mention her name, I think I will. Okay, there's what I see is there's a place of ignorance, all right, where an individual is not empowered when it comes to the knowledge of your freedom. Okay, the knowledge of your rights as an individual before you ever became a wife to someone or you have a platform to exhibit your gift. Okay, so she subjected herself, as it were, to that platform as against saving her life. And people subject themselves to abusive situations because of a lot of things that are being at stake. But we say when you are empowered, you have the knowledge of what the law says as against the society, your religion, your belief, your platform, what you stand to gain. That's when you would be able to stand up to say no, especially when it has become a pattern over time.
So it talks, because what I deduce from you is a certain level of awareness, self-awareness, where you can draw the lines. We need to have this conversation because two of us came together equally to agree on this.
When you are dealing with an abuser, you cannot negotiate. The person is not on the same level because there is a control and power at place. Okay, so
ego, pride, and
control and power is in the center of it all. So what you need to do is you look at yourself. Do I want someone to use me to play out the power of control or the power of power? Then you make a choice.
Okay. Now, Boson, the point there is, this is not to encourage people. The moment you have one thing, okay, I'm no longer interested. Not necessarily, but there has to be some kind of balance where you are in a marriage. So we don't expect that any little argument, you jump out, I'm no longer interested. But the point there is remaining in there where you are threatened is another. How do we balance that in such a way that there is no chaos?
Well, when we talked about something, your knowledge of the law. There's self-awareness, there's knowledge of the law as well. The law is there for people. Most of this thing, she talked about the fact that ignorance also was at play for the lady. There's a religious angle, there's a societal
cultural
angle,
thing,
but there's a personal ignorance. Now, I think we should make people understand. I beg to differ from what you said a bit, that maybe one-off or like somebody just snapped out of influence or something. There's something called test transmission. I call it my own, my personal calling.
We are in broadcasting, we understand that.
So, you know, there's this test transmission slap that they give you.
Okay.
They look at your reaction. If you take it in good stride, you just go, you start cooking for him. My husband, he must not go, he must not go. After test transmission, there will be normal broadcast of that violence. No, it's something, I do it.
This is a serious issue. It's the way you're putting it that's making me laugh.
Well, because I do a lot of divorce cases. I've done about 200.
Wow.
And, you know, see, what I've seen is that the test transmission thing will lead to the main thing. So once you see traces of violence, take off. Now, then also the law says there's the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. It says that you can actually go to court and seek a protection order against your man. People don't know. You can go to one of the most fantastic institutions in Lagos, created by the Lagos State government, is the Domestic Violence Office. They're doing fantastic job. So people go there. A lot of people, you know, most times people don't know where to go. You know, I think some time back we talked about the fact that the reason why some women end up killing their husband is because they are reacting, not knowing where to go. The law protects you. The law speaks. Your husband will go to jail for 3 years. Now, forget the societal angle. She said something very profound. Your own life matters. Your own life matters in this thing, because if you die, the man will marry. I've seen people. In fact, the reason why I took up divorce as a place of practice is because I saw 2 people die and nothing happened. Like nothing happened. The second person who died, one of the family members went to the man's marriage when he married someone else. I was like, is this life? Is this how it should be? So the law protects you. The law, whether you're a man, whether you're whoever is being abused, the law protects the weak. But you see, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. If you die, you die. The life will move on. We've had presidents die in this country. The next minute, another person
There can't be a vacuum.
So another woman will take over. And if dead, you know, they say something culturally that the dead, they look back. If the dead people really look back, they will cry. You know, the Bible says that it will wipe your tears away. That means that you will look back and see that I shouldn't have died. I shouldn't have suffered like this. For children, your children will go. Take possession of your life, take possession of yourself, get a knowledge of the law, ask a lawyer, go to the police if you see these things like this.
All right. Now, the point there is, one would classify Osinachi as one of the old school mothers, like the rest of us who grew up in that setting where you believe that the moment you get into marriage, you know, it is for life. It's a mindset, kind of, and it's a very, you know, that is not to say it's bad. No, it's we're only looking at the areas where how can we make the best of it, you know, because there was the concept of preservation of the home, your children, and all of that. That is there, but the point there is, at the point where we are right now, the society is becoming, or the society is evolving, you know, into a new platform, a new orientation, new approaches to things and all of that. What should we be conscious of when we are getting into marriage with anyone?
Okay, the first thing is it's no longer you now. Okay, you don't take a decision and say, I have worked on myself. I think assessment, mental health assessment will be very, very important because we have a lot of people who are hooked on drugs, who have all manners of history, and they hide it from the present.
And all sorts of orientation.
Exactly. So when you go for assessment, mental, is it marital, is it background, and all of that, it's easier, even personality assessment, it's easier to tell if you're ready or not. And I like to say that marriage is not for everybody. Okay, but people have not come to terms with that.
That's a good line.
It's
Please,
not for
listen,
everyone.
But people, marriage is not for everybody.
At all. It doesn't define you, and it doesn't diminish you. But it's a beautiful thing if you are able to do it well the way it should be done. But what we're saying is,
even biblically.
Yeah,
you know.
Don't take it for granted, thinking you are just alone in this. Right from the beginning, set the record straight. And in case you see traces of violence, okay, you know, die there syndrome. However, you could look for ways to help the individual, but do it while you are away, okay? Recommend, I will only return if you could go for therapy. If you see a positive response from the person, then I think there is a ray of hope for your marriage.
Okay. Marriage is not meant for everybody. It's all right. That's a line. But even Apostle Paul in the New Testament talks about some of these things. You mustn't, you know, you mustn't be involved in it. But if you want to, then you have to be ready for it. What is the place of counseling, you know, and all of those, you know, call somebody to help you speak to, you know, as a way of preserving the institution of
Counseling is necessary. In fact, before divorce in court, you're expected to have gone for counseling. You don't just jump at it. But you see, the problem is the counselor, what is their understanding of this thing? Most of the counsels you get, they tell you just preserve the home, don't go for the sake of your children. That's the kind of counsel
the Bible,
we get. The Bible,
the
yes.
Quran,
People don't
what God said.
Then for all you care, the person counseling you is going through the same path. So it's not particularly adequate to tell you what to do. So you go and seek counsel from, you know, sometimes even the Bible says that in the multitude of counsel,
There's safety.
there's safety. Sometimes too, where counsel is too much, you get confused. What do you counsel yourself first? Look at this thing. Can I go ahead, or do I? Anything that has a birth, a beginning, should have an expiration. Now, so marriage can expire. We have seen people move on to a new marriage, and they're doing fantastically well.
Yeah.
You don't have to die there, like what Mimo said. You don't have to die there. You can move on and get a life and move on with your life. There's another man, there's another woman out there who there's an angel waiting for you.
Of course.
Don't die here with this devil.
And you are an angel waiting to be discovered.
Exactly.
It's all right. We have to leave it here now. This is still going to be a discussion on the minds of a lot of Nigerians going forward because of the person involved. But that is not to say these things don't happen. These things happen on daily basis. It was just that Osinachi, she's a celebrity, and then it just happened. And it's really sad. Olutomosu Oshifora, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Wimimo Adebi, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Marriage is not meant for everybody.
At all.
Take that one.